I got a request to talk about my guitars and their stories. So I thought I'd do that before I forget. So this was my first guitar. This is a nylon string guitar. And I actually got this from my grandma a while ago, like probably around like the year 2000. And I didn't start playing guitar until like 2002. And this guitar is from the 50s. It's an Aria guitar. And it was pretty cool when she gave it to me because she gave me a lot of books from when she was trying to learn. And they're very old. They're from the 50s. And it was just kind of cool to see the style. And the one thing that struck me was how much harder the books were. I feel like the guitar books now, like the method books, tend to be a lot easier than those beginner books. So those assume that the people were going to spend a lot more time learning. So this one has a broken string right now, but it's a pretty good guitar. It's probably only like a $200 guitar, but it sounds good and it plays well. So that's this one. I just need to get a new string for it. Then after that, I bought a guitar from Costco for like $300, and it was pretty crappy. And I don't have that one anymore because I was dating someone, a girl who I for some reason decided I was gonna like decorate it and give it to her, and we broke up right after that. So and I decorated it pretty cool, and I put like resin on it so like the marker wouldn't come off, and I like wrote lyrics on it and drew some pictures and stuff. So I don't have that anymore, but that was just like a basic acoustic. And then I had that one for a few years, and then I worked at a music school. Because pretty much 1 year after learning guitar, I got hired at a music school. Because I did get good pretty fast at guitar, because I just tend to, when I like something, I just do it all the time. So I got hired, and then my boss there had this old guitar just sitting in the closet. It was super nice, and he liked me, and he thought I needed a better guitar. So he sold me this one for like $300 at the time, and this is like a $600 guitar. And I really like this one because it's so thin. Like it's probably like a lot of acoustics are like this wide. So this one, like, it almost feels like you're playing electric guitar, so it's really comfortable. But this thing has just been super abused because when I first got it, I tried to take really good care of it. Because it actually looks really nice. It's probably a little hard to tell, but it's like green. It's got this nice green color, and it has like nice little like pearl inlays, and these gold tuners are kind of nice. And also it's acoustic electric. So I used to try to take really good care of it, and I had a case, and I'd put it in my case when I would go places, but then it would get so hot. The case had like this fake like fur inside of it, and it would gather moisture, and then it would get hot, and then my guitar would be wet. So I stopped putting it in the case, and then as I started teaching guitar, like your guitar just gets dropped and kicked and knocked over all the time. So after that happened like 10 times, I just stopped caring. But it actually held up really well. Like it only has like some little chips on it, but then recently, last year, I noticed this hole just out of nowhere. So I don't know how this happened, but it goes all the way through. And I was gonna get it fixed, but it actually didn't affect the sound, like barely at all. Even though it goes all the way through. I was pretty pissed off for like a day, but at the same time, like, this is my teaching guitar, and this thing's been just abused. So I just don't like how it looks. And I could get it fixed, but really, like, I'd rather just buy a new guitar. And probably will when I really have a need for a new acoustic. And also the electronics broke. Like this thing has a tuner on it, so that still works, and that's kind of nice. But the wiring, something's wrong with it. Like the wiring was always a little glitchy. Like the top string for some reason wouldn't get as much volume, but it used to be functional. I used to play this a lot through like an amp, and it sounded good. The top string just sounded a little weird. It still worked, but it didn't have it had like a little less volume than the other strings, so that would be a little bit annoying. But now it doesn't work at all, and I've thought about getting it fixed a number of times, but I'm not going to get fixed till I really need that. Because I tend to play through, whenever I'm playing through an amp, I just use my electric. So then right after I got this, I got like an Ibanez. Someone asked me what guitar this is. This is an Alvarez, and it's a, I don't know, the model number is FD60B11. I can't remember exactly what this was called, but they still sell these, and one other thing I like about it is you can play up really high. Like, not only is it thin, like I would never buy another acoustic that wasn't this thin, because whenever I play out sometimes on my students' guitars, I just can't stand how it feels if it's not thin. Because it sits on your body a lot differently. I think it's way easier to play, but also you can play really high on this guitar because of this cutaway. So when I play on like a normal size acoustic, like in terms of the body width, and there's no cutaway, like aside from doing open chords, it just feels super limited. So yeah, so then after I got this guitar, then I bought an electric guitar, and I got like a, what is it? It was an Ibanez. It's kind of like, it was like $350. And actually one of my students has that right now. I kind of lend it out to my students who are thinking about getting electric. And it's actually like, it sounds really good. It's for like more like metal style. Like I think that's what it was made for. Cause like sometimes my students will have like, usually people have Fender guitars, and if you try to play like a heavier style, it just doesn't sound that great usually. But that Ibanez guitar, because I've had a few students who like more like metal sort of stuff, usually like more like Children of Bodom style bands. And that Ibanez guitar would definitely get that sort of sound, even though it's kind of cheap. And it's really heavy, and I don't know, maybe it's just the type of wood that it's made out of. I don't know. The pickups, I don't know why it would do better for that style. And then recently, like last year, I got this guitar, which is a Jazzmaster, and this thing's pretty sweet. It feels like huge for some reason. Like, it just feels really big. I mean, I think it is. Like, I think it might be bigger. I don't know, something about it just feels really big, but it feels good to play on. It's not the easiest guitar to play really fast on. Like some of my students who have been into faster styles, they're just something about, a lot of them had, I don't know exactly what brands they were, but they were more made for fast playing. They definitely weren't Fenders or Gibsons. It was more like, I don't think they had Ibanez, but they had some of the brands that are popular for faster styles, and like the action, like it's just so much easier to play fast. Because I couldn't figure out, like, one student who was into like playing like this Winter Sun band, and it was like really fast, and like I was having to like learn fast stuff like that, and he was doing it faster than me, and I was like, what in the world, like how are you doing it so fast? And then I tried his guitar, and it was just like really smooth, and like probably had thinner strings on it, but something about it was just easy to go fast. So this guitar, like, doesn't have that feel, but I really like it. And it has like, it's kind of, I don't know, these Jazzmasters, they have like this thing up on top where you can control the volume and the tone like normal, and then just switch the pickups right here. And they have this thing which will like disable, like when it's, I think when it's up, it disables this, and then this is the volume, and this is the tone. But I just never use that. Like the only time I've used it is when I have like an effect on. It's kind of cool if you turn this all the way off. Like let's say you have some crazy effect on and you want to kill it, then you can just flip it and cut the signal. So it's kind of like a kill switch. Like you could actually do it really fast and use it as a kill switch, but it's like this switch isn't that easy to, it's not like if you had, like some guitarists, they actually have switches that they can flip back and forth, like Tom Morello, and then the guy Buckethead even put a button on his guitar so he could really kill it. But this is just, it's not really meant for that. But you can kill, so you can kill it, and that's kind of cool. Yeah, this thing just kind of feels like a Stratocaster, and it just feels really big. Like when I'm playing on it, it just feels really big for some reason. But I like it though. So those are my guitars. And aside from guitars, I used to own a mandolin I bought from Ireland. I got totally ripped off because I bought that. I didn't realize it was in euros. So I thought I was getting a good deal. It was like, I thought it was $250. It turned out to be like almost $500 for this kind of crappy mandolin. Like it was old, but like really I should have just bought like a $100 mandolin that was new and really functional. And like some of the frets were worn down. It was probably like an old mandolin that was like, you know, like some good brand or something, but I didn't care because it just, all I wanted was just to kind of, I was learning the violin and I wanted a mandolin to learn the violin. So I also owned a violin. I owned a drum set. And all those things were not like anything too crazy. And then I would consider this an instrument. So I've been learning this program called Ableton Live, and this thing is a pretty weird controller. It actually sort of, you use it as an instrument. You basically map like sounds to these buttons. So it's basically like if you learn Ableton Live has an interface that basically looks like this, like in the program, and this is just like a physical, it's like in the like this kind of mirrors what you see in the program. This is just a physical way to do it. But you can actually use this as an instrument. Like I've made songs the past year, like where I'll record the guitar and then you splice up your guitar solo or riffs and you map it to different buttons, and then you can start to play like one track. Like you could record a track and then you can, like let's say you had part of your solo on this button, part of it on this. Like you made one solo but you spliced it up. Then you can start to play these different loops. And the program's really good at keeping everything in sync in terms of tempo. So I would consider this like feels like an instrument when you use it. And I actually have more fun with this thing than guitar these days, just because it's kind of foreign and it's a weird way to make music. So yeah, for next guitar, I don't know what I would get. I'd like to get an acoustic that sounds really good. Some of my students have really nice acoustics, and like it sounds really great to play on a nice acoustic, especially if the bass really sounds good. Because like my acoustic, like if I play the bass, it just, probably because it's so thin and it's like acoustic electric, it's kind of weak. Whereas like on some of my students, I'll do that. Like you can just hear both notes really distinct and really beefy sounding. Or I might like to get like some guitar with like 8 strings or something, because I think it would be really interesting to have extra bass. A lot of times that's used for heavier styles, but I'd like to use it more for just like I like to do like melodic finger picking. It would be pretty weird to have an extra really low bass note to, like, while you're doing finger picking, to be able to go really low. Because a lot of times like you just run out of bass notes, and also I think it would open up some different keys. Because a lot of times I force myself to like use a key that will allow me to play the lowest note on the guitar, because I want low bass in there, so like E major. Then you can go down the guitar like, because you want this E in there, but it'd be kind of interesting. I don't know, like on an 8-string guitar, what the lowest bass note would be. But let's say it was like B or something. Then I would start playing the key of B a lot to use that note. So that would be kind of fun. But for me, I'd kind of like to actually start, like the instrument I would really like to learn is piano, to play like Bach music, because I really like Bach. And also I think like piano players that I know, like their understanding of music is a lot more complex in terms of harmony. So that's kind of what I'd like to do. But anyways, that's my guitars. Bye.